you are going to post one video and then not post for 6 months, the algorithm doesn't care for you. You need to make consistent content. You need to post, say, at least once a week. And I don't do it for monetary gain, but I do it out of a genuine sense of really helping people. Same time, on his profile, he doesn't push it at all. He's only giving value-adding content to his audience. Every brand has to be on social media. Every brand has to be putting themselves out.
Hi guys, my name is Tulika Arora, your own digital marketer and an agency owner called as Media Free Blue, and today I'm interviewing a spectacular guest whose name is Mr. Karan Chugh. He is a singer, an entrepreneur and a podcaster as well. He has an online audience base for more than 2 lakh followers and more than crore of viewers. Hi Karan, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you so much for taking out the time. So then here is my first question without wasting any time, and the first question is, how have you thought about starting your own podcast?
I think it starts from me being really curious as a person, and I think one of the best ways to just learn and grow in life is podcasting, because you get to meet people from across fields, and not only that, you get to meet the top people from across fields. Because I started my journey as a musician, and my interaction then was very limited to just musicians. But the moment I've gotten into podcasting, today I'm with the top nutritionist of the country, then I'm with another top musician to another top entrepreneur. So it's a holistic way to grow in life. It's my curiosity that really got me into it.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. So we also know that you are an entrepreneur for the biggest chain of India, which is called as Seventh Heaven. So how do you feel that podcast is changing the way how businesses are promoting themselves?
I think it's very interesting, because today a personal brand is very, very important, be it for any business. Content creation no longer is a choice. Today social media is so relevant that every brand has to be on social media, every brand has to be putting themselves out. And I feel like social media is such a brilliant way to develop trust with your audience. This is something that I learned from Mr. Ankur Variku, who was one of the guests on my show. And if you see his profile, he has this entire website where he's selling online courses. But at the same time, on his profile, he doesn't push it at all. He's only giving value-adding content to his audience, and through that, he's built trust with the audience. So once that happens, then automatically your courses will sell, your books will sell. He released his book, immediately a bestseller. So that is not because of anything, because he was an entrepreneur, but because he developed that trust with his audience. So similarly, when, as an influencer, we get a lot of brands that want to work with us. But I've always had strong ethics, and I've always said no to apps like, these rummy sort of apps, or leather products, or because I'm a vegetarian, non-vegetarian products, or alcohol brands. These are some things that I don't wish to promote, and I also communicate that to my audience, that I will say no to good money, but I will not promote something that I don't believe in. So when I develop trust with my audience through my podcast, when I give value to their life without expecting anything, I develop that trust, and I don't do it for monetary gain, but I do it out of a genuine sense of really helping people.
So since you say that content creation is the need of the hour, right? Almost everybody wants to become an influencer. So if you want to become a podcast influencer, what are the 3 things that you would like to suggest to the new people who are just going to start their journey in podcast industry?
I think a lot of people are now seeing that the podcasting space is growing, and there is a lot of money in it as well. But that is not why you need to enter this space. I think first you need to ask yourself that, is this your passion? Because for me, now this is my 2nd year in podcasting, and very recently have I seen great success with my podcast, where one of my recent podcasts has blown up, has over 5 million views and everything like that. But before that, there is a journey where podcasts were getting 500 views, 600 views. So that is the journey that you need to take. It is not easy, because anybody can start a podcast. So it's not easy to really stand out from the market and go viral. It looks easy from the outside. So first, ensure that you are really passionate about this, and you're really wanting to grow in life and learn and also help people. When your intentions are right, that is when you'll start enjoying the journey. For me, it's not, for example, yesterday I shot an episode with Srimati Kaushiki Chakravarti ji. Now for me, it's not about, she's so popular now, I'll get million views or whatever. That's not the aim. The aim is that I am a Hindustani classically trained singer, and I get to interact with one of the best classical singers of the country. I got to learn from her, I got to meet. So when you start enjoying the journey, automatically the results will come. I think the Bhagavad Gita says this, you karam karo, phal ki chinta mat karo, and that is what you need to do. So be passionate about it. and do it with the right intentions and get in with the mindset that this takes time. And because podcasting might seem like you just have to ask questions, but there's a big art that you need to learn. It's the art of conversation. It's how you make the other person comfortable. At the same time, you get them to share their life, but at the same time, not make them feel like you're taking advantage of it or you're trying to make controversies out of it. This is not a journalist interview. This is a conversation, a heart-to-heart conversation that you have. So you need to also develop great conversational skills if you want to get into this.
So, I have already told you that, I'm a digital marketer and I'm also into coaching to various students and of course business owners as well. And there's one concept that I always keep on shouting, that is continuity. So, how much do you believe is continuity important, even if you run any kind of content creation thing?
Yeah, I think we are all working on social media, primarily for me, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. These are platforms that run on algorithms. If you are going to post one video and then not post for 6 months, the algorithm doesn't care for you. You need to make consistent content. You need to post, say, at least once a week. When I'm talking about a podcast, with reels and short form content, the frequency has to be even more. But with long form, at least once a week. And you can't be putting out bad content consistently. That also won't work. So you need to create content that really holds the audience. Because when that happens, automatically the algorithm will push it out. So once there is good content, it will automatically get likes, automatically get shares, comments, everything. People are focused on, "Arey, kya karun ki ye share mil jaye, like mil jaye." That's not how it happens. Just make good content, make it with honesty, and automatically everything else follows.
Correct. So there are many people who just keep on commenting and just asking the question that I don't have a right phone, I don't have a proper tripod, say I don't have a proper mic. So they're what would you say to them? And just go and just record videos out there, or then just have some kind of equipment first study and then start your journey. How would you suggest people?
I think it's a tricky question because in the initial stages of YouTube and social media, it is really new. People weren't doing it. So at that point, whatever quality you would put out, it would work because there were so few creators out there. But now when you are putting out a podcast, you're also competing with the top guns in the space. So now I as an audience have the choice of listening to the top guns or you. So suddenly if your quality is really bad, even though the content is good, I may still not watch it because it's blurry videos or the sound is not right. But what I will recommend is that today, especially after COVID, we've all realized the boon of Zoom calls and online video calls. So start your podcast journey through Zoom. Because that allows you to not have a microphone. You don't need a proper camera. All you need is a webcam on your computer. Just start your podcasting journey there. Also, initially, when you do enough podcasts, you're also developing your skill. So once you've done that, you've done around 20, 30 podcasts and you're feeling now I'm confident, I think my skill is in place and I know how to do it. That is when I think you need to invest in good equipment. So right now I have an entire team that shoots for me. There's a sound engineer recording the audio, there's a videographer, there's a DOP, there's a podcast manager. So everything comes into play, but this is also after 2 years of me doing it, right? So initially I've also started with Zoom calls, bad footage, bad sound, but that also doesn't mean that, you feel like, oh, I'm not going to be able to compete with the top guns. They are spending lakhs and lakhs on production and I'm not spending anything. That's how you start. You start small, you learn the trade, and once you're confident you're getting better, you've gotten a few good guests, that is when you choose to upgrade. And yes, now I would suggest that you need to upgrade to good equipment because at the end of the day, you are competing with the top guns, so you have to match their level or maybe even up it.
Correct. So of course, by inviting guests, by making yourself podcast, how do you tell that, podcast is the way how you can earn money? Or when is the kind of stage when you feel that, okay, fine, now my podcast might turn into some kind of monetary advancements for me?
Again, I think viewership takes time. Like I mentioned, it's a journey. It's not like, your first episode is going to blow up. But once your episode starts blowing up, the kind of viewership, YouTube ad revenue pays you well. Even a digital streaming platform like Spotify, Amazon, all of them pay you per stream. So that is one source of income. Otherwise, we also do a lot of brand collaboration. So XYZ brand sponsors this episode. So for example, if I've had an army officer, someone like, a brand that stands for courage will come and endorse the episode. So there are brand integrations, there are platforms that pay you for the content. And short form essentially helps you get eyeballs, and long form really helps build community. When someone is spending 1 hour, 2 hours watching your episode, they get a deep insight into even who you are and they connect to you deeply. So people generally have gotten too focused with short form and your reel banaoye wo. How much is anyone going to connect with you in 30 seconds? So both are important, both have their place. The reels will get you noticed, but your community will be formed through your long form content.
Of course, like after recording the podcast, after shooting it, after just editing it properly and then uploading it, you upload it to various kind of platforms, right?
Yeah.
So like what is the strategy to get viewers from all different kind of platforms? Like, mainly how to cross promote your one particular video to get more and more views? Like what is the kind of strategy that you apply?
I think you need to be smart when it comes to cross promotion, because you need to know and get a pulse of the audience, because the audience on every platform is not the same. If you have a guest who's very relevant, for example, it's a Gen Z creator who's your guest. Now you know that you're going to market that more on Instagram because that's where the younger audience is. YouTube has younger audience, older audience, the whole spectrum is covered. Spotify has an audience where it's also a lot of people that are going to the corporate kind of audience, because while going to their office or while coming back, that's when they're listening to the podcast, because they're also growth oriented. So you need to know firstly which is the platform which suits my current episode. So like I mentioned, different audiences, so you do that. And reels are, like I mentioned, are the best way to get reach. And then you give such good insights within those 30 seconds that they feel like it's their loss if they don't go to YouTube and see it. So instead of, most creators make the mistake of saying, please like, please share, please subscribe. When you're putting out good content, I don't want to use strong language, but don't beg for engagement. Rather, put out content where people feel like it's their loss if they don't follow you.
Maybe a subtle call to action that will throw people to your
and if the content has the power, it will do the magic automatically. So focus there and make it really, really engaging. So cross promotion strategies are quite basic, because on Spotify you put an audio that you can also watch our episode, because they're only listening to the episode. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube. You can follow us for clips on Instagram. So even if you see my YouTube episodes, every 10 minutes you'll see a plug of my Instagram handle. You'll see us plugging that you can listen to this podcast on Spotify. So that's how you cross promote. But mainly I think Instagram is the best tool, through reels, through very valuable content. Because if you actually help people, they are going to appreciate it.
Lovely. So now let's talk about your entrepreneur journey, which is called about, of course, the chain of the India's largest restaurant, which is called as Seventh Heaven. So how has your entrepreneur journey been so far? I mean, how did you started your first restaurant, and then after that it just went across like a virus to every other city? Because of course, like Varanasi also has it. So maybe how did you go about it?
It's a very interesting journey, and we started with one outlet in Andheri, Lokhandwala. This is back in 2013. But what I realized is that when we started one outlet, it did well, and it was just another good bakery. And that wasn't enough for us to really make it into India's largest bakery chain. So eventually with time, we realized that it's just another good bakery, and that is not enough, and we need a strong differentiation. So that is when we invented the concept of live kitchens. So now every Seventh Heaven outlet has a kitchen in it, and we also have a section there where you can see the chef prepare your cake within 7 minutes right in front of you, customized according to how you want the cake. Now this is a strong differentiation, because Seventh Heaven will give you fresh cakes compared to other brands that are giving you cakes that are 2 days old, 3 days old. Now, because we had such a strong USP, the customers wanted to take cakes from us, because obviously anyone will prefer a fresh cake. And secondly, franchisees wanted to take our brand, because again, the franchisees go where the customers go. So, it's been an incredible journey, and I think we succeeded because of strong differentiation. And today we've been able to open more than 300 franchisees across the country. We also have an outlet in Dubai, an outlet opening in London. So now the aim is to expand internationally.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. So thank you so much for being there on the show with me. I have a last question for you. So you are already a singer, you are an entrepreneur, you are a podcaster. Which is the next industry that you're planning to tap on? Is it acting?
Not really, actually. That's a funny story. At one point in time, I was offered a TV show. I've been offered many reality shows, but it's not my cup of tea. And because when you are an artist, I've been trained in Hindustani classical music for around 11 years. We perform actively. I've also sung for films and many other things. But when you understand what it is to be an artist, you don't want to take up anything that is just for money or just for fame. You know what art is. So acting is an art form that really requires you to completely transform. You're not Karan at all. Whereas singing is something where I can just feel the emotion, but as myself, I don't need to dissociate. So I have too much respect for the art form that is acting, and which is why I don't want to get into anything more, because I already have a lot on my plate. Beyond this, I'm also doing influencer work where I'm endorsing a lot of brands. So that is where my acting ka keeda comes out. But it's not a big one, and it's not something that I plan to pursue at all. But music and podcasting and entrepreneurship, I think my plate is full.
Great answer. Thank you so much, Karan. Of course, we are all your fans, and thank you so much for being on the show. And hoping to meet you next.
Yeah,
soon.
no, thank you so much for having me. It was an
much.
absolute pleasure.